Yeah, but in this class, I teach you put a note.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, good morning, all. I trust we're having productive weeks.
Morning.
All is well with everybody.
Yes,
it is.
Okay, very, very good. Um, in terms of homework, I see a few persons sending in homework, and for the most part, everybody seems to be retaining the information. And like I said in the homework, because it's open book, you're expected to get 100%. There's some persons who may have gotten 80 or 90% because they would have missed one or two portions of
excuse
it.
me, Ms. Fuller. I'm lost this morning. What homework are you talking about?
The essay,
Pardon me?
the essay is
Oh, okay. I thought we had something else.
no, just the essays.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
just giving an overview to say that it seems that everybody is on, track and retaining the information and scaling it down and getting to the points. Okay, so very very good with the homework. And for those of you who haven't submitted as yet, we have approximately 2 weeks left. So this is just a 4-week class, short and sweet, and then we have review. So please ensure that you submit your homework if you haven't. But for the most part, I see about 14% here, and I would have received homework from at least 8, I think. So very good. That means you would be going into the final exam with a possibility of attaining 35 points. So outside of the homework, then there's the Rotary Kiwanis, a 5% bonus. Anybody was able to attend?
Yes, I was able to attend.
Okay, excellent, excellent. So, okay, in a minute we'll let you share. But again, the idea is that to pass the overall course of 70%. So the idea is that you go into the final exam with at least 35% already between the homework, participation in class, and the 5% bonus. So you can sit comfortably in the exam and not worry if I'm going to pass or not. So try your best. We have, after this class, we'll speak on the last 2 chapters and then review. So time is winding down. Yeah, the class is short and sweet. And so don't let the time run up on you and not get the points, because like I said, it's the difference between a 65 and a 70, that 5% matters. Or for the scholars, it's the difference between a 89 and a 90. So I don't have any extra points to pull from anywhere else. So this is the opportunity. So please take full advantage of it.
Ms.
Okay.
Fuller, what
Yeah.
did you send? Was the invite for everyone for the Rotary?
I sent the invite to persons who had asked for it. Now I'm not certain that I sent it to everybody who had asked, but I did remember you asked, and I think Stephanie had asked, so I sent it to.
I got a Kiwanis one, but I didn't see a Rotaries one.
Okay, you only have to attend one meeting now. You don't have to
Okay.
attend all 3, just one.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. And then come to the class and share it.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, good. What about the newspaper? There was, I mean, an overwhelming amount of news. I mean, right up until yesterday. So a few of you should have had the opportunity to read the newspaper, and we want to hear from the persons who have not shared previously on their reading the news. Okay, so we want to make sure that everybody gets their full points. So go ahead. The person who said they attended to get their 5%, the name just flashed for me. Was that Meryl?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Go ahead, Meryl. Share with us, please.
Okay, good morning, all.
Morning.
I'm not too sure, Ms. Buller, what is it exactly you wanted? So I just basically did an overview of the entire meeting.
Okay. Yeah, just
Okay.
tell us of your experience.
Oh, it was a great experience. I would have attended the Rotary Club of Southeast meeting, and the club particularly meets, they meet on Wednesdays, every Wednesday at 1 p.m. But of course, given the pandemic, they meet virtually now. But before these circumstances, the meetings were usually held at the East Villa restaurant that's out in Montague.
Okay.
And for those of you who may not know, Rotary is worldwide and it's a service organization whose purpose is to bring together like-minded persons, both business and professional leaders, to provide humanitarian service and to advance goodwill and peace all over the world. This organization is non-religious and non-political, and their motto is service above self, and I feel as though that speaks on its own. The meeting started with a prayer followed by the four-way test that's recited by all of the members. This would be referred to as their moral code, basically, what they live by, what they go by in their day-to-day basis and their day-to-day routine. The president was Lionel Haven, and he would have welcomed the visitors. And he spoke briefly on the work that they're doing, the exceptional work that the club is actually doing, even throughout the pandemic. They would have had an initiative called the 19 Days of Christmas, whereas they fed many families during the Christmas season. And they also still rang the bell. That's when they actually they would have actually get monies. Like they would be stationed at the malls, or sometimes they'd be stationed like at Harbor Bay, shopping plazas, just to collect money for the less fortunate. And then after the updates, the speaker, Bernard Gay, he was announced and he gave his presentation. He is the Chief Information Officer of Genesis Care, and Genesis Care is a multi-billion company straight out of Australia. And this company pushes clinical trials while its focus is still on cancer. While he gave a brief understanding of his current employment, he really spoke about the advancement in the workplace and how high performance is driven. He also spoke briefly on his childhood and how he was able to actually obtain what he has. And he offered professional advice on self-development. And he also elaborated on the importance of planning and also continuous training and self-educating. After his presentation, of course, they would have given specific time for question and answering. And then, of course, the vote of thanks was given and the meeting was brought to an end. But my main takeaway was, if you're interested in assisting persons or being your neighbor's keeper, Rotary is an organization to join. They not only render services to others or the less fortunate, but they actually ensure that their members are well kept. They make sure that their members benefit as well. There is an opportunity for sub-growth and development. There is not networking opportunities. They fellowship together. They visit church services together, and they have social gatherings and as well as educational opportunities and advancement. So it was a pretty good meeting. It was short and sweet. They didn't keep them too long because most persons were actually to work. So while I actually took lunch break at 1 o'clock to actually attend the meeting. So they didn't keep you too long, but it was pretty interesting.
Okay, Marilyn, excellent. I'm so happy that you attended and you found it beneficial. And this is why I'm sending you out there so you can network, so you can get into, the good corporate organizations that will help with your career advancement. So very good. And I hope you do find the time to attend again and perhaps join. Okay, so excellent. And thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else attended any organizations, any groups? No? Okay, so don't miss your 5%. So right now only Meryl's name is on my list. And I think Wood Lamb is on my list because she did the not cyber, but the digital currency thing online, correct, Wood?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So I have Maryland and Wood. So everybody else, catch them up. We don't want only 2 persons of the entire class receiving their 5%. Okay, very good. Now last week, I think Cassandra had some difficulties, but Cassandra had read a article in the paper and she wanted to share with us. Cassandra? Okay, let's give her a few moments in case she's having some difficulties again. Okay, and anybody else would have read, there were so many articles in the paper this week. And anybody else?
Yes, I did, Miss Bullard. It's Patricia.
Okay, Patricia, go ahead, share with us, please.
I was
Yeah.
reading the one with the EU,
Okay.
with the EU that said, with the blacklisting,
Yeah.
their concern is that the Cayman Islands, Bahamas, and Guernsey were taken off the list too hastily, which I thought was interesting because, okay, you put us on the list and then you say we did like maybe one thing and Cayman, not just us, and then you removed off the list. So they feel they're going to put some more constraints in place as far as people going on the list, countries, and coming off the list. But it sounds like they want to keep us on the list.
I think what the main concern is with the EU, I could be wrong, Ms. Bullock, correct me if I'm wrong. During the last, let's say 20 years, up until 2015, there had been no persons convicted of money laundering in this country. And between 2016 and 2020, there were 14 more individuals convicted of money laundering. And this is how one of the reasons why we're off the list, because they saw some action from our regulators and our persons at FIU and our law enforcement officers doing something now about this big problem that we have here with anti-money laundering. Now, to me, in 2015, 1 person, and between 2016 to 2020, 40 person, that's a big jump. That's a big jump. So maybe they're feeling like, okay, we only did that to pacify them, to get them off our backs. And so they want to see consistency. So that's why they're going to keep putting the pressure on us. They want to see consistency because they know that, well, they probably can't prove it. But if you had to speculate, there's a lot more persons, and they're probably looking at our PEPs who are getting away with money laundering in this country, and they're not being, they're being prosecuted to a certain extent, but they're not being convicted. So maybe that has something to do with it.
Okay, you're correct.
Yes, I agree with her.
Go ahead, Stephanie.
Yes, I agree with her. It's not consistent, and the laws are not really. If you look at empirical studies, it's not really effective. It's only a little shallow. It's not deep, because the results of it is not is no evidence to suggest that what we're doing is effective, or we don't have no way of measuring anything. It's just a shallow piece of it's only shallow changes that we make to the amendments in our laws. And like how she said earlier, there's no reinforcement, and there's no evidence or no studies, no consistency or anything like that.
Okay, so let me just chime in. Prior to 2018, money laundering was not, one of the requirements for the 40 recommendations is that money laundering is a predicate crime. And so whilst we, it was somewhere in our books, it was not like Stephanie said, hard and fast written. So all of the laws were repealed and replaced, and it's fully updated in our laws as of 2018. And so the CFATF did come in around 2017 when they conducted the mutual evaluation report, and they basically said, as Bahamians, law-abiding citizens, nobody has ever been charged. And so what happened in the past was that, you committed fraud or stealing by reason of employment, and there's like a, say, 1 to 4 year penalty attached to that. And so persons were just charged with fraud or stealing by reason of employment, or stealing by reason of fraud rather than money laundering. And so what you would have found, I think Michelle Reckley was the first person to be charged with money laundering, but a lot of her charges had to be dropped, because I think she started off with 54 counts, and then they said that the law wasn't retrospective. So at the time she committed the crime, it was not a law on the books, and so they had to drop a lot of it. And so what you see now is when persons do the stealing by reason of employment, or the bribery, corruption, and the fraud, that's the lesser charge. You see here now on the news they're charged with money laundering, and they consistently say it. So, which I think holds away swift the penalty. And so now it's a predicate crime. Remember, I told you that there are about 21 crimes listed under money laundering. So if you get charged with fraud, you get fraud and money laundering. You get charged with stealing by reason of employment, bribery, corruption, and money laundering. Okay, so internationally they're watching us, and yes, they do want to see more persons being held accountable. And again, that's why the FATF was supposed to come in and check our action plan. One person was going to sit with the FIU and help them process some of these, outstanding files, or bring back charges against some of these persons. But if you listen to the news now, almost every time you hear somebody with the fraud and the bribery, it's the money laundering charges attached to it. So that's why you see it went from 1 to 40. It's just that they weren't giving the money laundering charge previously.
Yeah, I hope you said 2018, then they defined the law more clearly pertaining to money laundering. Okay, so I hope they're not going to be going beyond 2018 to charge those persons to bring them back to court. That would not stand up in court.
Yeah. A lot of them won't start. Yeah, because some of the laws are not active, so it doesn't go past 2018, and the crime would have been committed before. But this is why you need to stay educated and ensure that you know what you're doing at work. Because first of all, only poor people is go to jail. And only poor people is pay bills. Okay? No, for real. And we have to increase that number drastically, correct? So who's gonna go to jail? The small people who can afford to do seals and the Wayne Monroes and what have you, right? So you want to protect yourself. You want to understand what you do at work, because we're being internationally watched, and some people have to go to jail. So the Bahamas get seem as if we're a law-abiding country. Okay.
It seems like we need to. It seems like we need to educate the poor man too.
Yes, and that's why the training is a statutory requirement required by law, and we're gonna talk about that today. And so ensure when your institution hosts those trainings, it's mandatory we show up, but we sleep through it, or we don't pay attention, or we don't retain anything that they say, and we definitely don't go to jobs and find out, hey, how does this affect me? Any of these policies and procedures applicable to me? Am I doing something right or wrong? And so we are in the season where we have to have some people before the courts, make sure they're in you. Okay?
Yeah, but I also think too, it goes to not only work ethics, but personal ethics, Ms. Bullard, because when persons go to these training, if they put themselves in a situation whereas, okay, I have to protect my life, my livelihood, and my freedom, so I need to get this information because I am not going to jail. People are not realizing this is what it's going to come to. You're going to be held accountable if you make some type of error on your job and you get yourself involved with shady characters, and these persons are charged with money laundering, and you're going to be complicit. So you guys, we have to take this stuff serious.
Yes, and you have to ensure that you understand what your function is, and you need to ensure that you have controls in place and you understand what the controls are to protect yourself. Because like I said, we cannot eliminate risk, we can only mitigate it. But you have to ensure that you have proper controls in place and you understand how those controls work. And if it says two signatures, if it says dual when you keep it in dual, what do you call it? When two persons must go into a safe together, and sometimes we just hand off
dual custody.
Dual custody, right? Dual custody, right? Yeah, don't share your screen password. Don't share your combination. All these things that we used to do back in the day where we didn't take it seriously, and everybody, because I was a teller supervisor at Twinkle Robinson Road for many years, and it was my best teller who I gave teller of the year, employee of the year, everything to, was the one who was stealing from a blind person. So it was $80,000, and she was the best all around teller. She got promoted and everything. And when we checked her account, she had debited the blind man accountant transfer all his money, like, 200 today, 300 tomorrow, and we were all amazed. So everybody has like a buddy that they work with, and very close relationship at work. Check everybody. When it comes to money, you have to check everybody. Okay? So be careful and don't say, oh, that's my friend. I work with Miss Bullet for years. She can have my pass. No, she can't. Okay? And there will be some people who are very savvy and very smart, and they know how to defraud the system, and they may use you. Make sure you dot your I's, cross your T's, sign, verify, check before you sign off on anything or approve anything. Because if they do find a workaround where they defraud the system and you are involved, at least when they pull the evidence, you could show that you weren't negligent, because a lot of us get caught up because we are negligent. So make sure that you would have followed what the policy says, and you can explain the policy says A, B, or C. I did this check, I did that, I verified, and then it appeared to be legitimate, and so I approve. So mistakes will happen, but you have to be able to say, I followed the process. And if there are gaps in the process where there is risk involved, ensure that you identify the gaps. Another in my class, the person is saying, oh, my company bought a very savvy system and nobody knows how to use it. And we have millions and millions of errors and nobody's doing anything about it. And they're insisting that we use the system. And so if you would have watched Dirty Money, like I said, the first episode is on Volkswagen, where Volkswagen defrauded the world, where they put a new system in place that nobody knew how to use. And they just kept, every time people complained, they said, oh no, the system works, whatever. It's a new way you do it, admissions, and they was defrauding the entire world. And so if you would have watched that episode, you would see that was one of the very larger cases that they had to recall many, many, many times. Okay? So awareness, and this is why I send you out to go and watch these videos, read, do your research, so there's awareness. Okay? Okay, good, very good.
Miss Bullard.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, that's what in talking about it, right? There was an article in the Guardian, I think maybe it was yesterday or day before, talking about this corruption index and saying that scores for us are down for the third consecutive year, which in looking at it, it seems like that was since 2018, which is when we went through all of this stuff of upgrading the laws, right?
Right. And again, that was the first time our politicians were ever brought before the court. So if you look at, what is important is the country's risk rating and then the corruption perception index. And so both of those come from Transparency International, and you can also get the country's risk rating from the Basel Index. But with the corruption perception, the score is from 0 to 100. And the higher you are, the less corrupt you are. So we were at I think a 66, and now we're at a 64. So it's only been dropping one slot.
Well,
so
because it's saying
we wanna watch it, but it's okay. We're not doing bad.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Oh no, because I see they were saying now for 2020, I think it was down to 63. And I guess the person, Matt Aubrey. Yeah. I guess he was also saying that certain legislations, integrity commission bill and stuff like that, meaning that these things aren't being put in, it hasn't made legislation as yet.
Right. And so in the absence of those, that's probably on an action plan. And if they don't meet that deadline, and that's why you'll see, the threat is that we're going to reduce you. Okay. And so any country below 45 is considered high risk. And some countries don't do business with countries below 45. And let me just tell you an experience, the net effect of that. I had customers in Madagascar and Russia And
Mhm.
in Russia, I used to pay school fees. In Madagascar, we paid like insurances and what have you for customers as well as salaries. And so this was a weekly standing order where I paid the salaries and I paid the school fees or what have you. And so I would have been sending out those wires and with no issue. One day, our correspondent bank just said, and I think this was right after the law came out in 2018, we no longer do business with countries that have a CPI index of 30 or below. And I said, really? I said, is this a new law? And they said, well, it was always law, but we never enforced it. So I said, okay, let me go and look at Madagascar's CPI index because these people's salaries got to go out. And when I looked, their one was about 26. And then when I looked at Russia, I think was about 20. And so I said, okay, so what does this mean? And then I found that there were a few countries that had a low CPI index. Venezuela had 16. So I said, oh my God, how are these people going to conduct their business? And so imagine me sending the wire, the salary the week before. Today, I'm no longer allowed to send the salary because our correspondent bank said no. Luckily, we had another one, and I was able to send those salaries right then and pay that school fee right then. But the week after, the second correspondent bank had said no, we do not do business with those countries. And so of course, we had to call the customer up and said, well, basically, international law has changed and we're not able to facilitate this transaction. So what does that mean? Almost everybody from Russia said, well, we can't send these payments. No, it's no use. I have an account with yours. Correct? So that cost us to lose a lot of business. Okay, wiring fees, and we lost the customer because our correspondent bank, and it isn't easy to just go and pick up a new correspondent bank. And once you see one bank put this restriction in place, it's a matter of time before 2 and 3 banks, all banks are on following the same procedure. So that caused us to lose some of our our customer base. So this is the importance of these international standards being in place in your country. So the Bahamas 60 is very it's moderate. Like I said, some countries go as far as saying we don't do business with countries at 45. Luckily, the standard is 30. So you wanna be aware of that. And it doesn't have to be just that we don't have policy in place. It could be event driven. Prior to Hurricane Maria, Puerto Rico had a CPI index of 65. After Hurricane Maria, they felt that it was a lot of corruption and a lot of bribery, and Donald Trump did not support or send the funding down to Puerto Rico, even though it's a U.S. outlying island. And so they didn't want to automatically like blacklist Puerto Rico, but they took Puerto Rico off the list and they put them there with no rating. So what did that mean? You know what I mean? And so when we tried to send wires, it was up in the air. They were held up and people said, well, we have to make a decision on it. Okay, and all of that was because of Hurricane Maria. So of course the governor of Puerto Rico had to put in I guess speak with the OECD, speak with the FATF, see what they could do to ensure that the financial sector was not affected because nobody would send their wires or nobody would do business with them. Okay, and so after Hurricane Dorian, a lot of people was beating down Hubert Minnis, but and he had that drive where he had, people said, oh, it was a sham, he brought in these people who say they would give a loan and what have you. But again, internationally, he is being watched to make sure that, these millionaires and billionaires around the world don't come and offer, hey, let me give you this money to, do some business. And it could get your economy up and running. So he was between a rock and a hard place. He needed, Hurricane Dorian had happened. we lost the whole Abaco and some parts of Freeport. And so what do you do as a prime minister when there's no money anywhere else or there's no help nowhere else? And you fighting to keep your economy, above the waters, but you only have, the very corrupt. I mean, we had China making offers and other countries making offer, but that's the position the government is being placed in to make decision that, hey, there are a lot of people out there and a lot of people have money. However, you have to be careful who you take money is from, because if these people are corrupt, then it could affect your entire country, and then it'll affect your commerce. So you have to be very careful. And people who are lashing out at him and say, oh, he gonna get a loan, it was a sham, it was this, it was that. I think, but what we should have done, because this is our country, no matter who the government is, and it's gonna, the net effect is gonna be on us. We should be out there brainstorming, giving suggestions, seeing how we can assist with, getting the economy back to where it needs to be. But a lot of people just took that as an opportunity to say, oh, he don't know what he's doing and he don't know this or that. But depending on what decision he made, it could have affected us internationally. Okay, so this is why I want you to read the newspaper and be aware of what's going on in the economy, because a lot of people say things in opposition. They don't know the full story. If it's PLP against it, if it's acronym, it's always wrong. But we got to be careful that we support what is best for the country, not our political affiliation, whether they right or wrong. And our job is not only to oppose. Obviously, if you're saying he don't make good decisions or he needs help, so let's get some lobbyists together to support the government, no matter who is in there, rather than just bash, because it's gonna affect us and our children, and this is our country.
Agreed.
Okay. Okay, good.
I'm sorry, Ms. Fuller, just one question before you, not even a question, but you said we need to watch the corruption index, and what was the other one?
It's the risk assessment, so the overall country risk assessment.
Okay.
Yeah, because remember we talked about that, it being medium high, and when you mentioned the DARE bill and the digital currency, and I said this is one of the initiatives that the governor put in place to ensure that we're not a high risk jurisdiction, because when you are cash intensive, that's one of the categories that could make you high risk.
Yes, right.
Yeah, and then he strategically put it through the Western Union and the Cash and Go, because they are cash intensive businesses, along with the gaming houses. They're very cash intensive, so they can possibly cause us to be high risk, and he is trying to mitigate that before we get that rating. Okay. Okay, good. All right, very good. Everybody seems to be aware, and which is good, and I'm retaining this, so good. So we're going to talk about the book. Did anybody read about the risk-based approach and then customer due diligence? No? No, quiet. Nobody read?
Yeah, we read it. Well, I read it.
Case, the know your customer.
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay, yeah, I read it.
Okay, and so we understand about knowing our customer and what a risk-based approach means. Yes. Okay, good. So let me just give you an overview where this whole risk-based approach starts from. So prior to all the laws changed, a few years ago, we used to be like a rules-based type of country where there were some rules in place and everybody had to follow, and then you just check the box and say yes, 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 I abide by this rule or this law or what have you. So of course we know the 40 recommendations were updated, and we switched from a rules-based approach to a risk-based approach. And again, this is the 40 recommendations that I have on the screen. Can everybody see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, and so the first recommendation off the bat,
Yes.
recommendation 1 and 2, speaks about this risk-based approach. Okay, so again, just so you can be familiar with this document and these 40 recommendations, I put it up on the screen so you can just see what it says. So basically, recommendation 1 says that countries should identify the risks, and then put controls in place. Okay, so identifying the risk means, does my country do business with PEPs? And I think we talked about this part. So most of us understand this, right? Does my country do business with PEPs? Do we do business with offer bearer share accounts? Do we offer correspondent banking? Do we have face-to-face interaction with our customers, or is it done online or through a third party? All of these various functions or services or products are high risk. Okay, and so therefore we must document all our high risk processes, um, all our high risk functions, and then we must put controls in place to mitigate those risks. Okay, and so as a country, the country has a national risk assessment, and again, that national risk assessment was completed in 2015-16 and approved in 2017. Now we know that we were deficient in 22 of these 40 recommendations. So of course, our risk assessment of 215 216 is very deficient as well. Okay, however, it was accepted, and our country got a medium high risk rating overall from the Basel Committee and Transparency International. Okay, so we are in the process now of updating our country risk rating, and all the sectors involved, which is gaming, because back in 2015, gaming was just being legalized. So everything on gaming, if it was mentioned in the 2015 risk assessment, has to be changed. The insurance sector, the information needs to be updated. The non-financial businesses, which are the law firms, accounting firms, and real estates, are just being regulated in 2019. So of course, no information was there on them, just an overview. And then the banks, and then the securities business. So all of that, you come together, the entire financial sector, and that's how you get your country's risk assessment. And so each of those regulators would have sent out surveys and questionnaires in 2017-18 and gotten information from the banks, and then they would have or the financial services sector, and then they would have I guess did averages or collate the information and determine overall the majority are products high risk, low, medium, or what have you, and then formulate the country's risk assessment. So that's how it works. So all the insurance commission goes to all the insurance companies, the gaming board goes to all the gaming, central bank came out to all the banks, securities commission went out to all the securities business, and they would have collated that information or brought it together and established an overall country risk rating. So whilst recommendation 1 says country must assess their risks and put controls in place, we then put this in law, because remember, it starts internationally, then we put it in law. So the FTRA Section 5 talks about risk assessment, where each institution then has to do a self-assessment on their business, determine which products and services and functions that they offer, and the risks associated with those functions. Okay? And so basically, in a nutshell, that is what a risk-based approach is about. Assessing your risk, determining a risk appetite, and again, in the risk appetite, which countries do we do business with? Do we do business with Iran? Do we do business with Afghanistan? Or do we stick with the medium risk, which Russia is medium risk, Switzerland, the UK, what have you. So you create a risk appetite for your business, and you say, these are the countries that I do business with. These are the products and services that we are going to offer. Okay. And what controls do we put in place? If we are going to offer a trust service or be a trust account, then one of the controls in place is that we will make sure that we have on staff a person with the STEP qualification. If we hire PEPs, we offer PEP, accounts, then we are going to have where compliance will approve low and medium accounts. We will have a compliance committee approve high risk accounts, and then we'll have the board approve PEP accounts. Okay, so that's a control. There has to be 3 approvals for a PEP account. Okay, and normally, whereas compliance will probably just provide an overview and approve low or medium accounts. When it comes to the high risk accounts, you have to write an entire essay or a full background check. Another control in place is that we are going to pay an outside company to go into the country. Say we have the PACs of Angola or an account from Angola. We are going to pay somebody to go into Angola and do an assessment on the country to see which risks, are associated with the country, and to ensure that it is safe to open up an account for Angola. Okay, so a risk-based approach is described as risk identification and assessment, risk management and mitigation, and then documentation of the risk. Again, you have to write this down. You have to do an entire self-assessment. You have to submit it to the regulators. Again, it was on the books. It wasn't taken seriously, and it wasn't enforced. So in 2018, the regulators enforced it. They gave deadlines. They said by June 22nd, your AML risk assessment should be in, and by October 22nd, and this was in 2019, your enterprise-wide risk assessment has to be in. And if you did not send that in, the regulators were giving you a fine of $5,000, I think, a day. For every day that you did not put that, submit that, you were getting a charge of $5,000 a day. And let me just tell you what the net effect of that was. At that time, the credit unions had just been under the supervision of they've been transferred to the central bank. The central bank was now the regulator. And of course, prior, the credit unions had like a self-regulating body. And so they really did what they felt like doing. And so imagine the same employee saying, a risk assessment? I didn't even know what a risk assessment is. And we don't know how to do it. So there were like 3 or 4 training sessions, again, where they spoke on what you should do, the policy, but not really the procedure, how you should do it. And so basically they said that there was no template. Each institution is different. You have to tailor it to your business. You have to figure it out for yourself. And then, we went to Deloitte, because, Deloitte always say they have the expertise to do everything that comes up in the law, or PwC, the accounting firm, but they were charging $80,000 to complete this task for us, so of course the pressure came down on the risk department to ensure that these deadlines were met. Now, in the absence of a risk department, a lot of small companies did not have a risk department. So guess who this very lucky task fell on? The compliance department, of course, right? Right. So here it is. My institution does not have a risk officer, so now it's compliance fault. They have to do it. Okay. So imagine everybody, all the laws have just changed. So that means you have to update your internal policy to ensure any gaps or changes were identified. You have to train the people. You have to ensure that controls are in place. You have to ensure that all the systems are in place. And on top of that, the regulators are down your throat saying deadline or we charge you $5,000 a day. And I had a colleague in one of the credit unions who, again, he wasn't the compliance officer at the time when they took, they were being regulated, transferred to central bank, but he had been there for 25 years. So they just pulled him and say, hey, it's time for you to be promoted. You could be the compliance officer. And he's like, but I have no compliance background. So they set him right in Miss Bullet class, go down to the institute and learn. So he was here in this class, he started and he went all the way to ICA, but in trying to manage all the deadlines and trying to do school and trying to find out exactly what we do and how to do this, he got overwhelmed and he missed a lot of those deadlines, and they ended up letting him go. So it was a very, very unfortunate situation. So, be aware, like I say, a lot of us wants to be promoted or get to the next step, but then what turned into 25 years of being a very good employee or what have you, they just pushed them. And that's why I say these classes are where you decide whether you could take the comprehension, whether you can take all the reading, where you could do the research or not, and ensure that the whole entire business remains compliant. Okay, because gone are the days where things are not being enforced, and you'd be like, by the time it's regular, you just get around to us. We need to get to it, but that's not happening anymore because again, we're being internationally watched. Okay,
Okay,
and
let's
so
let's go through that one more time. Okay, so when you say the laws change, we have to update the internal policies,
yes,
and then what?
then train your staff on the changes in the policy, right? So everybody's now on a learning curve because the laws didn't just, say go from we want one ID to two IDs, and so okay, fine. Then all the laws were repealed and replaced, and a lot of these functions that we were not doing and were now being enforced, like this risk assessment. And then this risk assessment is very comprehensive. It's on the entire business. Could you imagine every function that you carry out in an institution? You have to write down, for instance, you have to say, we open up an account. Okay, what is the control on account opening? We get two forms of ID, right? We verify, we get the proof of address. And that's just for account opening. So there are various processes throughout the entire business that have to be documented on this risk assessment. And then you have to submit it to the regulator. And so you have to include all the various risks that your business is susceptible to: criminal risk, reputational risk, financial risk, legal risk. So this is a very extensive document.
And concentration risk too.
Okay, yes, all of that. Okay, and what is important also is that the risk methodology, because a lot of times, we have to risk rate each of our clients, and a lot of times people don't know where are we getting this country risk from. You are not coming up with country risk. So what is the methodology? Where do you get this information from? I get it from the Basel Committee, or I get it from the Transparency International. But those institutions, they update every year. Are you updating your information every year to make sure that the changes are documented properly?
Right.
So there's a lot of work involved in ensuring that you get this risk-based approach implemented into your organization, and this self-assessment documented and approved then by the regulator, so you avoid that $5,000 a day for not, you know what I mean? Having it correct. And then again, the net effect of that is if the banks or the Securities Commission or the gaming houses did not actually do it. I mean, of course, the first year nobody knew what to do. So the information probably was not 100% correct. But again, now it's going to be trickled into the country's assessment,
Right.
Yeah. So it's everybody had to play their part, and that's why they were so stringent with the deadline, saying, listen, we got to get this information into the national risk assessment, or because our last one was so deficient, and if we don't submit something, they would just send us a high risk rating, and we want to avoid that because they have been very lenient from 2014. 15, 16 was the last time, we had an actual risk rating. And so, of course, this one is going to be more intense, more detailed. All of the sector is now regulated and operating efficiently. But think about the law firms, whereas the banks been doing this for a very long time. Think about the people in the law firms who say, do we really have to do this? And this is only the law firms with a corporate service providers act. If the law firm doesn't offer financial services, then it don't affect them. So this ain't like the criminal lawyers or whatever. Okay, but it's most law firms and accounting firms that do corporate law. And
Okay.
real estate have a corporate service providers where they provide financial services for their clients. Okay, so the risk-based approach helps you to establish systems, controls, policies, and strategies. Helps you to carry out customer due diligence. Um, you generated like a continuous review process. Once you would have risk rated each of your clients, high, medium, or low. Normally, you review the high risk every year, the medium risk every 2 years, and the low risk every 3 years. Okay, and so that just means that, let's say for instance, and I always use this scenario where if Davis' daughter would have gotten married and we had the person married to Brave Davis' daughter on our books, right?
Mhm.
And he was low risk because he was only dating, and of course you could date numerous persons. But now, so every 3 years we would have called him on the phone and had a conversation. Hey, any substantial changes? Any children? Any weddings? Like, course you are, people may say that's intrusive, but you're required to know your customer, right? And so this year we called him, he was on the 3-year turnaround of the review. And we said, hey, any changes? He said, oh yeah, I married the opposition leader's daughter. He said, oh really? So what did that mean?
Perhaps
Risk
high
award.
risk.
Have to.
High risk and PEP.
Mhm.
Okay, very good. And so suppose our risk appetite said we don't have an appetite for pets, then what?
You may have to
do?
create one.
Not for one person.
What do you mean? The baseline got to start somewhere,
But
especially
listen,
especially with those individuals.
listen, if you go down to the benefits of the risk-based approach, they said it helps provide a cost-effective system. And again, we want to risk rate these people because high risk means enhanced due diligence. And as we go further through the chapter, we will learn about that. And that's a cost. Remember, I told you all there's a report where you go into somebody's country and you do an investigation on them. And definitely we have to do that on a pair. That's a $1,500 report. Okay, so the bank has to decide now, are we going to update our risk appetite? And not only that, are we going to update our policies and procedures? Because our documentation says we have no appetite for pets, right? Central bank is going to come in, and when they come in or when audit comes in, they ask you for your policy and procedure. How could you we have no appetite for pets? That means we have no controls in place for pets. But this person married and is now a pet. That's a conflict, right?
Mhm.
We would need to update all of our controls to satisfy this one person. So of course the board would have to make that decision. But those types of things happen. Okay, so this is why you have to review, because those names are popular and they're pet lists. And when central bank comes in, there's World Check, there's LexisNexis that you pull up and you see all this information on the person. So they say, Miss Bullet, how you say you have no appetite for pet, but this gentleman got married 2 years ago and he's still on your books. Show us where you would have spoken to him. Show us where you would have, given him 6 months to close out this account. Or show us where you would have changed your appetite. So you have to ensure that your policies match with what you are doing. And a lot of times they don't. Okay. And when audit and regulators come in, that's what they do. They pick up your policy and then they test it. Okay. And then that's where you get audit notes. Okay. And the more audit notes you get, the worse your report, your overall rating is affected. And each person or each department has to put in an action plan. And the first thing we do is when we audit and we see that there are deficiencies, the first thing we do is ask for the CDs. Please provide the resumes of your entire department. And recently Central Bank has been saying, please provide the resumes for your entire department because they had too many audit notes. And they are checking those resumes to see if there's sufficient experience and sufficient education. I just had to open up an account on behalf of my institution with Morgan Stanley. Yeah, was it Morgan Stanley? And they asked me to send my training log, and I must show them which training I attended in 2020. And I said, but it was a pandemic, but they didn't excuse me. So as the MLRO, I had to send them my training log to say I did this online, that online. I did this seminar at the FIU. Okay, so that's why I say gone are the days when they just actually, Ms. Bullitt, did you attend training in 2020? And Ms. Bullitt said yes. Now they want proof. Okay, now they want to see your resume. And every account that I have opened for the bank, I had to send my resume. I had to send my policy. Okay, and this all over the world. Okay, so make sure that your resume is updated and you reflect all of your training and you are keeping current and abreast. Another thing that I saw in the papers the other day is they were looking for, I think, a head of regulatory compliance, and they said, we want you to have your degree within the last 3 years or prove continuous professional development. So
I saw
got
that.
our degree from 2001 and 2000, I don't know. I said, they ain't relevant no more. Like what going on?
But then they
You
want
know?
you to have the experience since then. And
Yeah,
when
they
you have
want
the last time experience, they say, oh, the degree doesn't matter.
Right. And so in your department, you want to make sure that you have sufficient experience and sufficient education. Okay?
Miss
Or
Bullitt,
you'll see people being recommended to be let go. Okay? So
I had a situation this week at work where insurance now has to provide KYCs for all our customers. And a customer asked me, how does being politically exposed provide a risk for the insurance company? And I wasn't quite able to explain it to him without insulting him. How would you explain that to someone in that situation?
well, all around the world, like particularly in the Caribbean, presidents are being impeached or governors of the central bank are going to jail. And there's a lot of corruption and bribery. They are more susceptible to it.
Mm.
And so to reduce the risk, we carry out enhanced, we monitor them closely to ensure that their accounts are not being used to money launder. And you can explain to them that, it's really protecting for you because people, see you in this political position and you have, decision-making capability on behalf of the country. And not only you, your family and your friends. And we want to ensure that when you give out these contracts and when we give, you make these decisions, it's on behalf of the country, not on behalf of you or somebody who would have bribed you. And so this is actually protection for you because when these people approach you and say, oh, you see the rules and regulations in place, I'm being watched. There's no way. And that will help you if this been your friend for years or this person you grew up in school with or what have you, to tell them, no, it ain't really me. I would have helped you, but I am being watched. Because of course, in the last election, they bought Perry Christie's daughter statement and it had some millions of dollars on it.
Mm.
You all remember that, right?
Yes.
So that's why for the whole family, because of course you can walk up in the bank and deposit this $50,000 to Perry Christie account and it's not questioned. If it's outside, it's means. And it's not always money laundering. I told you all the story about Brent Simonet, correct? No. Okay, so Brent Simonet would have declared, when the FNM was in power.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, they needed to declare the money. And so he declared that he had 50 million. And the next time he ran, he declared that he had 150 million. And so, of course, they called him and said, Brent, did you make $100 million in 4 years? How? But his mother passed and left him that money. And so that's how he was able to prove it. And so not every person outside of their profile is a money launderer. Okay, there are legitimate ways to make money, but again, you have to have the controls in place. So it helps you, like the system is one of the controls that will flag you, hey, Brent just deposited 100 million, you know, and then you go and call him on the phone and say, hi, please provide source of funds. So all of these are controls. Okay. Okay. Any questions on the risk-based approach?
No.
Okay, good. All right. So we're going on to the next chapter where we talk about statutory requirements. And statutory requirements are requirements that are required by law. Okay. So this means that once you are in the financial services sector, there's no if, ands, or buts around this. This is what has to happen. Okay. And so in terms of identification, and all of us should be familiar with this by now because we have accounts at various banks. And years ago, we used to say, oh, this is so intrusive. This affects the cost of doing business and what have you. But of course, you know, each account holder has to be verified. And by verification, you have to um, provide information on your physical identity, which is your name, your date of birth, and I guess your NID number, and then any activity undertaken, then which means you must then create a profile. So of course we know when we go into the financial institutions, they ask for passport, a voter's card, um, and then they ask for your date of birth, the purpose of the account, the nature of the relationship. So the activity undertaken means that I want an account for school fees, or I want an account for savings, and I expect to deposit to this account 3 times a week, no more than $5,000. So I would establish the profile. And just let's go back to my peanut boy or my car wash guy that came in, opened that account and said, I can deposit the $50 a week. When it got to the 10,000, that was outside of his profile, right? And so, right. So, and it was out of the frequency as well as the amount of money we expected. So, of course, that's a red flag. Okay, and this is very important in terms of verifying who is to operate these accounts, especially when it comes to company accounts and what the purpose of this account is for. Because I don't know if you all know the story about Agud Edison Sumner, where he would have, let's say, opened up an account at the, you know, his business was, I think, a securities business. The accounts, I think, were at, let's say, a Scotia Bank. And he went down to the Scotia Bank and he said, I'm going to open up this account for cryptocurrency. And we expect 10 people to deposit per month, and they're gonna deposit up to $1 million. So each month at the Scotia Bank, persons were coming in, it was within the profile. Okay, and it's hard to, the account manager doesn't see every time they come into the bank. So of course, that's the importance of management information and reports. They would get the report the next day, or they will see it in the system. And that's the importance of having a system that works properly to alert you that, you know, deposits were made and I need to check the profile. Or if you don't have a savvy system, then sometimes you have to do it manually. And the people would have been depositing for cryptocurrency. And so let's say the account had $2 million. Sumner and the other guy who, the CEO, decided that they wanted to go to Miami and they wanted to buy a Rolex watch and they wanted to buy some luxury items, right? And so the Scotiabank employee received the wire and said, oh, these signatures match. Send this wire out, right? What was wrong? Was that supposed to happen?
Ms. Fuller, can you repeat that, please?
Yeah. So
No, because
the account was open for investing in cryptocurrency, right? And so it was, let's say, it had $2 million on it. And so if this account is for cryptocurrency, how is it that a wire request could be sent into Scotiabank asking for a trip to Miami to be paid for, or a BMW? or a Rolex watch.
Yeah.
Should those transactions have been approved? Just
No,
because the signature match?
no.
No, because that's not the purpose of the account.
Correct. And that was not their personal money.
Right.
Okay. And so subsequently, you would see that he got banned from the Securities Commission for 10 years and the CEO got banned for life. Okay. So you want to ensure that when persons come in to open up accounts, you document purpose, but then you review it when these transactional request comes in. Normally we say, oh, the signature match, you could send out that transaction. It's not only the signature matching, is you have to ensure that it's within the profile, okay, and the purpose, okay, and he is responsible just as much as the account manager at Scotiabank who approved that transaction and allowed that money to be, spent recklessly because it was not his money. Okay, so you want to ensure that the full name is correct, and one of the um, problems around these opening accounts is people use slang. The passport says Robert, but we say Bob. You want to use the true and correct name. Um, the government has reduced the requirements for, I think, proof of address, but they say you need two or more means of customer contact, meaning that you must have like an email address or a telephone number, the purpose of the account, and the nature of the relationship. All of that is very important. Um, Nationality of the person. To me, there's a difference between nationality and citizenship. But I've been in an argument with that for 10 years. But if you think it's the same thing, then I'm not gonna argue with you. And the purpose of that is we have a lot of people that would have moved from, let's say, Afghanistan, which is a very high risk of country where we normally don't do business. If they move and they to Afghanistan, from Afghanistan to the US and live to the US in the US their entire life, do you think that that person moved to the US for a better way of life? Did they move their entire family? Are they going to send money back to their family in Afghanistan? What do you think?
Slightly, they will.
Yeah, more than
More
likely,
than
if they
likely.
move, most people move for a better way of life to be able to send money back to their family till they could get them to the other country, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so if that's is all of this is you are required to know your customer. And so these are the questions that you ask when opening up these accounts to know that, hey, is there a link? Will this money be sent back? So we don't do business with this country because this country does not have the proper laws in place. So you want to think about those type of things when you open up accounts. Okay? Or you want to at least list it as high risk so you can watch it for the first year, then make a proper decision as to whether we are going to keep this account or not. Okay, you want occupation and name of the employer. Again, if I say I have $1 million but I only make $50 a week, how are you approving this account and generating a profile saying that I get deposit 4 times a week and it add up to $1 million? So from the account opening process, it has to make sense. Ms. Bullet, you only make $50 a week. How are you bringing $1 million into this into this bank? And then your job letter say you only make $50 a week. Where's this money coming from? And again, if I can't say, well, I invested in the stock market and here's the proof, or I got an inheritance and here's the proof, then you shut me down before I even open up the account. No, Ms. Bullet, the most we could accept from you is $50 a week. Okay? And then again, if I only get paid once a month, how am I telling you that I come in 3 or 4 times a week with deposit? Where's the money coming from? Okay. And with medium and low rated customers, you ask for proof of employment or source of income. With high risk, you ask for source of wealth, meaning I want 3 years of financials. I want a copy of the deed where you sold this property. I want a copy of the will where you got this inheritance. Okay? So there's a difference between the two. So you would really need to determine if this person is high, medium, or low, because the requirements are different. Okay?
For
Yes.
those that have a lot of ways they receive money, like I may have apartments or whatever, do I put all of that on the KYC form?
All. You have
Oh.
to remember this, the account opening. Every source that you are going to receive income from, you should document it, because 6 months later, you have like 800 clients. You would want to be able to pull up that file and say, okay, yeah, this person got it, or yeah, this person has this investment. Because these things won't be in your head. Remember, now you're required to know your customer, and so normally, there are certain metrics in departments where somebody is, and this is in the offshore work, because primarily my career was in offshore. You want to have a European desk, so you deal with Europe, and you would know how Europeans do business, and then Latin America, and then Asian, because most of the times, there are similarities that help you to make sound decisions, because different people do business differently, and so each head of European desk deals with all, has like 2 or 3 people under them that probably have 100 clients. And this is important because, we have institutions where everybody just deals with anybody. And there's, again, you could share responsibility. You can't share accountability when it's time to decide who's going to jail. Do you send the whole department to jail, or do you send one person based on what? So this is why you need to assign Miss Bullet 100 clients, because she will know them intimately. She can't know 800 people. Okay, so you want to ensure that your metrics are in place. Or some people go fall through the cracks if I have to know 800 clients intimately. So you want to ensure that the proper segregation is in your departments where people can manage. And even with compliance, you want to say, okay, I have 3 relationship officers where between the 3 of them, they have 300 clients each, and I will deal with that as compliance. But excuse me, if you have to deal with the whole organization, that's too much information to retain. And so proper metrics, you should have sufficient clients assigned to sufficient people, so they're not overwhelmed. Okay, or a lot of these things just slip through the crack. We are overworked, overwhelmed, we don't have time to manage this properly. Okay, so if you put some metrics in place, that may help. Okay, so once you would have gotten all this information, the passport, the proof of address, the account level of account activity, in the case of investment and custody and balance ranges, what have you, you want to certify these documents. This is another deficiency that the central bank has said industry-wide when they go in banks. The first thing is they would have seen where the account opening form have Bob, but the person named Robert. So we're not using the proper names. And then from foreign countries, there are different spellings from men versus women. They could be sister and brother, or husband and wife, or father and son, and the names are different. So there are a lot of deficiencies across the account opening information. And so you want to ensure that you look out for these, deficiencies, because if you have 800 clients, then you have a systemic problem. So you want to avoid all of that. And so certification, a doctor, a lawyer, there has to be a a suitable person, and they increase the list right down to a teacher can even certify. But if you work in the offshore world, you want to ensure that the bank allows you, or the central bank allows you 30 days to receive the original documentation. And you will find that in original documentation, people would have messed up. I worked at a place where the forms were like 35 forms that you had to fill out to open up an account, and different clauses and what have you was missing. And salespeople would come in and say, "Oh, Miss Bullet, I can fill that out." You can fill that out, but the whole purpose of us getting this information is, if we have to take this person to court, we can produce these documents. This person is more than likely going to show up, because these are rich people now. They can show up with their lawyers and their forms, which don't have this portion filled out. And our portion is going to be filled out, and then they're going to say that the staff tampered with their documentation, and that's the court case down the drain. So it is a hassle, especially when you don't meet the customer in person. You work through like external asset managers or business introducers to send that documentation back, but it's best in your best interest to send that documentation back because it's no longer valid. Once you say, oh, Miss Bullet spelled her name wrong, let me just put the L in there. Or she missed a clause 789. No, these people have lawyers, accountants, consultants. When you see they miss uh clause on your account opening form, that means that they don't agree with it. Okay, and so therefore you have to send that information back and make sure that these people agree with it. There's a lot, I have a million of stories so where we had to go to court or where people said, oh, I didn't agree with it, and that's why I left it blank. So you want to ensure that each clause or each section in your form is complete. A lot of times forms there's no completeness. Okay, and then with this certified true and correct, so one document would have come not certified true and correct. And so our salespeople take the, initiative to say, oh, let me stamp that. No, you didn't see that this was a original, and we do business with people all around the world. There's fraud upon fraud upon fraud, So that certifier, you have to make sure that it's an original. And then another problem would be so that it's translated from those Latin American countries. It comes in Spanish and Mandarin and what have you. It's so bad that the central bank had to say, no, this is the Bahamas. You could accept Spanish documents, but it must be kept in English because when our auditors come in, we don't know Spanish, Mandarin, and all these things. So everything must be in English. So a lot of times that certification comes in another language. So you want to ensure that the entire document is translated and it's kept in English. Okay. For corporate clients, again, you need the certificate of incorporation, you need the articles of association. A lot of times you need like the shareholders registry, and in the past, and this was a major problem in the Bahamas and quite a number of organizations where you would get a shareholders registry and a company would be listed as the shareholders. So on the register, it would say Bullet and Co. Okay, and so the law has been updated to say there must be a natural person. Yes, you can accept a shareholders registry that says Bullet and Co., but then you must have a nominee agreement. Okay, because Bullet and Co. could mean Miss Bullet and Ben Laden. Correct? And so we want to ensure that Ben Laden or people on the blacklist do not infiltrate our institutions, and you really don't know if it says Bullet and Co. And when you go into World Check or LexisNexis to do a check, it says Bullet and Co. So you want to ensure that all the natural persons to that company is listed, because a lot of times Bullet and Co. will have power of attorney sign or an accountant sign, and we will never really know who the ultimate beneficial owners are. So all of that must be listed, and you want to ensure. But like I said, there was a lot of companies where we had Bullet and Co. and or a company's name, and we did not know who the principals are. Okay, so you want to ensure that that doesn't happen. Okay, and the same thing for the company. You want to ensure that can the company really afford to deposit this money? Are they authorized to offer loans? We had somebody say they were a loans business, but they didn't have a license, and so you want to ensure that you find out, there are a lot of vehicles out there now to attract investors. There's a segregated account. And we had people coming in, opening up these segregated accounts, which reduces the liability on each person. So Miss Bullet will have account, Miss Major will have an account, Miss Maxie will have an account, all under one company. But you required a special license. So we saw that the bank was opening up, because they had the business license and memo and arts and everything. We opened that account, not realizing that you needed a special license just for that segregated account. So if you want to ensure that you understand what is required by law for the different various types of accounts that you have, and that controls are in place, to ensure that you get those documents. You want to have yeah, satisfactory evidence of all persons um having an interest of 10% or more. So back in the day, it used to be 25%. So you would see persons saying, oh, this person only owns 20%, so we didn't have to verify. So now they get it down to 10%. And again, people still want to go work around the system. So now you see people saying, oh, they have 8% shareholding. So that means that they don't have to bring in their passports or what have you, and they don't have to be verified. But when you see people do that, you wanna, check and just make sure that everything is kosher with that account. Okay, so you want copies of the list of registers and directors and officers. You want written confirmation that all credits to the account and are beneficially owned by the facility holders. So you don't want Bullet and Go to say we are a bakery and we deported in, but then that money could be in there too. So you ask them to certify that they are, all the money is coming from this bakery and they sign, because again, all these things come up, have the industry has been affected by all these things. So that's why it's so cumbersome now and all these things are required. Okay, so that's the first statutory requirement, which is identification. When persons come into the bank, the insurance company, or the gaming house, they're required, you have to identify them and you're required to know your client. Okay, so statutory required by law: identification, record keeping, training, the MLRO, you must have an MLRO on staff, and then monitoring. Okay, so that was identification. The next one is record keeping. Record keeping, again, is short and sweet. After an account closes, by central bank law, you're required to retain all the information for 5 years. If you're a securities business, you're required to retain all the information for 7 years. Okay? And so what you want to do is ensure, where I said Royal is more conservative. The Swifts are less conservative, the Canadians are more conservative. And so Royal said we don't ever want to be in problems with the regulator. So the regulator says 5 years, we're going to keep it for 7 years. The regulator says 7 years, we're going to keep it for 10 years. Okay? The Swifts say 7 years, 7 years, 5 years, 5 years. So it just depends. So I worked at Royal and we had a securities arm as well. And so we would keep the documentation for the longest period. So even though we were a bank, because of our securities arm and the Securities Commission requires the 7 years, you keep it for the 7 years. Okay, and that would have been after the account closes. And so a trust account, we also offer trust services, and trust accounts are legal entities by itself. So Royal Bank policies, said to keep a trust account for 25 years. But you can imagine that after these close, it has to be in storage, being kept all these years. Somebody has to man the storage, and there's cost involved. Okay, but there's if you do not keep these records, there is a fine. Okay, and recently the regulators has come up with, we don't want you to keep it longer than needed, because we have seen, what happens on TV when they go and sell these storage facilities after people have been there for years. So as soon as practical, like if your policy says we don't want to be in trouble with the regulator, and so 7 years from the Securities Commission, we're going to keep it for 10 years. And if your internal policy says that, that's fine. But on the 10th year, destroy it. We don't want people selling the storage facility, storage walls, or accessing that information. Okay? But you are supposed to destroy it and retain it and keep it properly. Okay? And again, if anything comes up, any court case, the FIU, the police need any information, then you are to be able to produce it. So that's record keeping in a nutshell. Okay. AML training. You are very quiet. What y'all can tell me about AML training? Somebody talk back to me. You're asleep or you're awake?
Awake.
You're awake? You're listening to
Wide
me?
awake.
Okay, good.
Listening.
So we know what these 5 statutory requirements are. We familiar with them? They happening in our organization?
Yes, once every year. At least it
Okay.
should be once every year.
Well, it
Right,
just
and
started
then,
in insurance.
Miss Erica, when your compliance department calls you and says there's AML training, do you show up and
Yes.
do you pay attention?
Yes, I do.
You do. You don't give them a hard time and say, "Oh God, not again. I'm too busy." You know. But back in
Man,
the day, you used to have a hard
sometimes.
time.
Yeah,
Sorry.
sometimes, but you have to do it.
Right. So you know that it's required by law. And
Mhm.
central bank, like I said in the past, used to just say, "Please confirm that you would have done your AML training for the year." And we said, "Confirm." And now they're coming back. Please confirm and send a copy of your log. How many people do you have on staff? 33? Maybe 33 signatures, okay? And they actually check because they have called back and said, we realize that you have a misdrawn. We don't see misdrawn signature. Is there a reason? And so, sometimes the executive give you a hard time and they say, no, I don't have time for that. I busy, busy, busy. So everybody must make time. And even the FIU puts a notice in the papers each year around the same time, January, and they say, if you have not completed your AML training for the year, the fine is $10,000 and then $5,000 staff member. So of course, no institution is going to pay that staff member. That'll be their salary, right? That staff member
Yeah.
will be going home. So
So-
make sure you attend your AML training, you listen, you are engaged, you participate, and then there's supposed to be a little test at the end. Sign, you take the test and sign. Don't have the compliance department running you down for your signature and the central bank waiting on it. Okay, and so in terms of training, again, this is a very popular question on the exam, statutory requirement or the requirements of training. And so we don't want fluff. We want to say new employees should get this, employees dealing with the public should get that, account officers should get that, and managers and back office and operations supervisors and managers should get that. And if you want to go further, the board is now included as well because in the past, the board, is just the general staff, but no, the board is required because one of the inspectors had a water cooler conversation at a board meeting where they asked, there's normally the priest, and they asked the priest, how do you handle your pets? And the priest was like, a pet? What is a pet? Okay, so you cannot be sitting up on a board, even though you're not in the financial services sector and do not know what a PEP is or any parts of you have to understand the risk involved in the decisions that you're making because again, you are responsible, you delegate your authority to the staff to carry out the daily functions of the bank, but the accountability lies with you. You cannot share that. Okay, and the board is responsible. Okay, so even the board has to be trained, and the Wolfsburg questionnaire in regards to correspondent banking, when you send wires and what have you, they even ask you, are your consultants trained? Are your third party persons trained to the business? Your business introducers and your external asset managers. And normally, because in the offshore world, we don't normally meet the clients. We have external asset managers around the world, and they sit in Switzerland and London and Latin America, and we send them, hey, you might be in Switzerland, however, this account is going to open up in the Bahamas. And so these are Bahamian law. Please sign off that before you go and open up that account, you understand what Bahamian law says. So if Switzerland says, let's just say you don't have to get an ID, Bahamas law says you have to get an ID. Okay, so they want to ensure that even those consultants around the world and external asset managers, all of them are trained. Okay, so if you were to answer this question, you want to ensure that you have what training the account officers should get. Okay, those dealing directly with the public. Okay, and then if you're in the wiring department, you're required to have 2 trainings per year if you send out wires. Okay, and so that's a part of the law. Okay, so you want to ensure that you're getting, if you work with wires in that department, you're getting those 2 trainings. So everybody else gets 1, but the people in the wiring department have to get 2. Okay, So statutory requirements, monitoring. Again, after you would have opened this account, um, each account would have been risk rated high, medium, or low. Normally, monitoring is annually if it's high, every 2 years if it's medium, every 3 years if it's low. And some institutions don't have high, medium, or low, they just high or low, or it really just you tailor it to your business. Okay, and you want to check the transaction type, you want to check the frequency, you want to check the amount, you want to check the signatories. So each year there's like a review form where you pick up the phone and you call the customer and say, this is where you find out if there were any changes, if they're doing anything differently, if they got married. You want to go to their history and you want to print out the history for the entire year and just scan it and say, okay, this account, this is where you'll see that, Miss Bullard say this account was for cryptocurrency, but she buy a Rolex watch. And then you got to go see who approves that, on a cryptocurrency account or an account for school fees or what have you. And you want to ensure that I stayed within my frequency, I stayed within the amount, because you might have missed it or didn't see the red flag. And so sometimes, I had an account that I had opened when I was in college. So of course that's when I only had $50 a week, and I had to spend that to live. But then, I came back and I got a job. And so they called me and they said, Miss Bullard, we realized that a salary is coming and you need to come and update your profile. And so this is what you want to do. You don't want it to just continuously run on and on outside of the profile, because suppose I didn't have a job and so you call me on the phone and I say, man, I make more money at home. You have to say, how, Miss Bullet? and you have to question me how I'm making more money at home and make sure Miss Bullet is in money laundering. Because again, this is what a lot of companies don't realize. Yeah, we would have verified upfront. We would have Nexus, World Check, verified that Miss Bullet is within our parameters and she is doing what she is supposed to do in accordance with this account. However, today she is law abiding. I could go out right after this class and commit a crime, right? And so does your institution have the systems in place to verify a name check system? Is somebody scanning my name every night to make sure that I am not money laundering or committing a crime? Does the police have to send a subpoena? Like they had to send it to CIDC and the Teachers Credit Union, because nobody realized that Michelle Reckley was outside of her profile by $1 million. And she just happened to be teaching it, so you want to ensure that you are proactive and not reactive. So find out. Okay, find out. Okay, so that's monitoring and do those reports. Like I said, you have to have the proper metrics in place. And each account officer, depending on the amount of clients that you have, may have 50 or 100 clients. If you have high risk clients, enhanced due diligence is much more work. And you would find that the account managers or the sales managers, they don't want their books to be high and they don't want that extra work, but you want to ensure that the senior people deal with the high risk, the junior people probably have 1 or 2 high risks. And so they'll have 50 high risk and probably 10 low risk if you're a senior person, or 10 medium. But if you're a junior person, you should have 100 low risk and probably 5 high risk persons just for practice. And you want to ensure that everybody understands their role and what they should be doing, and the work should be distributed evenly as best you can. But we know that doesn't always happen. Okay, so you want to ensure that monitoring is done and people understand their roles. And in my years, the reviews were always behind. Everybody say, oh, I'm Miss Bullet, I want to road. I don't have time to do the review. And with compliance, it is, we just go out to the department and say, please confirm that the reviews were done. We don't necessarily check the medium and low, but the high risk, compliance signed off on those, because we wanted to ensure that those were being reviewed. But even with that, with the compliance signing, we would have these account managers saying, oh, Miss Bulling, I get around with it. Oh, I just so overwhelmed. Oh, I just, and the reviews backed up for months. If you're in the compliance department or even an account opening, make sure, because whilst they're backing up for months, you will find all sorts of deficiencies in happening whilst, or things falling through the crack because we overwhelmed and we underpaid, and these criminals know this, and so they leverage off being overwhelmed and underpaid and not being able to pay attention and go to trainings and all these different things. They know this, so and they sitting all down all day trying to figure out how to infiltrate the system, and sometimes it's easy, okay. So we want to have some awareness and make sure that we know exactly what we're doing. Okay, so that's the 5 statutory requirements. And then there's the MLRO, the money laundering reported officer, which is a regulated function. Okay, meaning that it has to be approved by the regulator. So you can send out a job description and say, I'm looking for an MLRO or compliance person. Whomever is the senior person in the compliance department, or one person in the institution has to send all their information to central bank or to the Securities Commission, Insurance Commission, and they do the background check. I don't know if any of you ever filled out a gaming board application, which was like 66 pages. And
Yes.
yes, it is crazy. It is crazy. You have to go and do fingerprints.
Yeah.
I've been divorced from 2010, and they asked me to bring my divorce papers and copies of my children's birth certificate. And
they talk to your neighbors. They talk to your neighbors.
I had to go and make my neighbor a cake. I said, listen, these people come to do a background check on me, okay? We're cool, right? So treat your neighbors good. So the central bank isn't as intense as the gaming board. But my God, they do come and talk to you. They came and talked to my neighbors, and they came and I had to give all my financial history. I said, Miss Bulletproof, Miss Bullet didn't have no money. I teach it, I ain't get no money, but they wanted my bank statements for 3 years and all sorts of stuff. So if you aspire to, there are 3 regulatory functions as senior official 1, senior official 2, then senior official, and then the MLRO. So yeah, if you're in one of those top positions, then you may be prepared, have all your, ducks in a row, because you have to go and get approved to make sure that you are fit and proper for that position. Okay. So once what the MLRO does is you would fill out the suspicious transaction report form, because you would say, hey, this was for cryptocurrency, this person buying a Rolex. And then the MLRO would investigate and find out, hey, this person allowed to buy this Rolex or not? Or is this their money, or is this the purpose? And then they would do an investigation, and they would do research and then use their judgment as to whether or not to file the suspicious transaction form with the FIU.
What is the minimum requirement for MLR?
When you say minimum requirement, what do you mean?
Education-wise and training.
Well, they want the ICA or the ACAMS. And then they want 3 to 4 years of experience.
So get experience if they don't hire you. That's what I never understood.
Well, the best thing to do is you try to get into the department as an assistant, and then that's how you would drum up your 3 to 5 years. But I mean, before, I was approved. I was just in the bank for 100 years. I was in the operations department. My background is operations and audit. Before I went on to compliance, and they were fine with the operations and audit, and I was the MLRO. But I had 20 years banking experience, and I had worked in various departments, in the trust area of the Royal Bank. So I guess, if you've got sufficient banking experience and then you have ICA or ACAMS, then you should be okay. And you'll be approved. Yeah, but if you want to go the compliance route, try to get in the compliance department once the assistant, and then you move up. But like I said, only one person will be the MLRO, not that the entire department will be. So if you don't have the senior
Okay.
position, you don't have to really worry about,
Mhm.
being the approved person.
Okay.
Okay. All right. We retaining all of this. Miss Fuller talking too much now. You'll talk back to me. Mhm. This discussion based. This is discussion. Y'all ask me some questions or tell me that y'all understand these statutory requirements required by law. No questions, no concerns. We can retain all of this or somehow sleep.
But we gotta go over this again. We got to go over this again.
When
I
we
mean,
going over
us.
this again?
The
Well, I mean,
review.
no, I mean, we got to read it and make our notes and stuff like that, because I make notes. I don't know about everybody else, but I just make notes in my textbook. And then I go over and I read again, and then I put it onto my notebook.
I'm the
Okay.
same way.
That helps me.
And
I'm the
watch the
same way.
YouTube videos.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I think for me, I take notes, as you mentioned, the points, because I knew it was out there, but this has been a real eye opener in terms of fine details.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that part of it. And if you say at the higher level, it's even more complex and detailed.
Yeah. Yeah,
Gotta
but
get this basic stuff back.
yeah. Yeah. So again, I don't want to scare you, but I just, and it's achievable because if I've done it, anybody can do it. Okay.
Mm,
And so it's achievable, but again, it has to be for you. You have to be able to deal with all this reading, this comprehension, and this research.
mhm.
And then you have to be able to make a decision.
I really got a lot from the risk sections because that clarified a lot of things with regard to why when you go in, or sometimes you get annoyed when you go in the bank and you're saying,
Mhm.
why do I have to go through this again? But the time frames you gave pretty much sums it up in that if you go in and it's beyond, if they're basically monitoring you based on which category you fall in, then it makes more sense to me.
Okay. Right. And then another big problem industry-wide is expired documentation.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Mhm.
then, today with people don't look the same that they did, so all sorts of stuff happen. So you want to be careful, and make sure that you get your updates. And it is a nuisance or a nuisance, and people do feel like, hey, you hampering doing business, but it's really only for protection. And again, we internationally, they're coming in and checking, are we doing what we are supposed to do?
All right, Ms.
Yeah.
Bullitt,
Large.
in your compliance department, when it comes to the actual creation of the compliance manual, do you guys do it collectively? Is this something you outsource? And laws change, you just update your policies, and what is the process?
So what we do, it depends on who you are regulated by. So we were regulated by the Securities Commission and the Central Bank. So
Mhm.
basically what we do is we go to the table of contents of the Securities Commission and the Central Bank, and that's what we put in our table of contents. So we, based on the services and products that we offer, we just pull it right from the guidelines.
Okay.
And then there's the Wolfsburg Association as well, and that's the association of major banks that offer corresponding, like the Deutsche Bank, the Wells Fargo, and what have you. And so they have a lot of principles. And then the Basel Committee has a principle. So you come with all these international standards, and you make sure that you have policy or procedure regarding all of these functions. And you put, just like you risk rate your clients, you risk rate your policies. And so, of course, the AML policy is going to be high risk. And so that means that needs to be reviewed every year. And it doesn't mean that you have to make drastic changes. Like in 2018, that was the most, repeal and replace of it or change of the information. But for the most part, depending on your institution and their audit outcomes and whether they need to be on increased controls or not, that's how we update it. But each different department has their own policy and procedure. And like I said, just like the AML policy is risk rated, their policies are risk rated, and we just ensure that they update or do a review. Like the manager the credit department will sign off on the credit department, say, I've reviewed it. There are no laws that had to be changed. There are no updates according to what has happened in the institution needed. And then you just sign off on it along with them.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, but you would find in a lot of institutions that policies don't have version dates. They don't have numbers. They are from 2003. A lot of the laws changed, even on account opening forms. Nobody is, the proper oversight is not there when it comes to forms. So each form should like expire after 10 years but definitely be reviewed in 5 years because things change and we know for sure that passports expire in 10 years. So you should be getting updates. But so you want to go back to your institutions and you want to look at the forms and you want to look in the corner to see if there's a version date. And if that version date say 2003, something. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so everything should have been updated since 2018 and should last for another 10 years. But check it. But it just depends on where you work. And then policy and procedures as well. There should be an expiry date. There should be a version date on your policy. And then you would know if you are protected. If you're not, make sure you get your regulators AML guidelines or any other guideline that you work in credit. There's a guideline for credit. Outside of the AML guideline, there's one for HR, there's one for corporate governance, there's one for finance, and ensure that you understand what the policy says you should be doing, and then test it against what you are actually doing, because that's what audit does.
And
so
then
if you want to keep your job, if you want to keep your job, you want to do what the policy says, and you want to identify gaps, and where there are gaps, you want to have your email sent. Because you don't make the decisions, but you want to have your proof that I identified this gap. I saw that this is a risk. And I sent it on to my manager, and I'm waiting on their response.
So whatever governing or regulatory body that's monitoring your institution, you want to adhere to their procedures and policies that they put in place, and you're going to adopt those, implement it into your institution.
Correct. So the Securities Commission has like 5 different licenses. So you have to find out which license your company has.
Yeah.
Okay. And so it could be the Securities Industry Act or the Investment Act or the Corporate Service Providers Act. Whichever one of those licenses you have, then there's a policy to go with it, and you want to make sure that you follow that policy. And then if you're dual regulated like central bank as well, then central bank guidelines are right there.
Okay, great. Awesome.
Yeah. Okay. So then simplify due diligence versus enhanced due diligence. And so again, simplify due diligence just means that, well, actually the law says where institution A would have verified, institution B does not need to verify, but we don't allow, we don't use that system here. So that means if you have an account at Scotiabank is where they would have gotten all your KYC. Scotiabank is supposed to be able to send like a reference letter to the Royal Bank and say, I verified this person. You can go ahead and open up this account. That would help with customer service, but we don't do that. We don't do that. We're not there yet, because if you go and open an account at Royal Bank of Michael and then Royal Bank downtown, they want you to bring all this stuff again. So they don't even do it intra-bank, and Royal Bank have everything online. So I don't understand that. Nobody wants to be responsible for keeping the KYC. So simplified due diligence says, that's what the law says. And then they go on to say, there are certain entities that are exempted for even producing KYC. So if you're regulated by one of the regulators, like if you're a bank, versus if Royal Bank goes to open an account at Scotia or the credit union goes to open an account at Scotia, they should say we are a regulated entity, see a copy of our business license. So you don't need to ask the KYC on all of our people that are going to sign on this account. They don't need to bring their passport. We don't need to bring you our proof of address, and we don't need to bring our memo and ours because we are, regulated. And so the law provides an exception where those types of institution, if you're listed on the stock exchange or what have you, you don't need to bring in KYC. However, was I at Royal Bank, Royal Bank said, well, we are more conservative and stringent than the regulator, and so therefore we do not want to, if their Miss Bullet commits a crime, we don't want to have to call the regulator and hope that they have an updated copy of Miss Bullet passport and proof of address to send that and wait for us to send that to us. So no, we do not do business with exempted entities. And so if the exempted entity wants to open an account with us, they have to follow our policy, whereas they have to bring in their passport. They can't tell us they are exempted, and they can't call central bank and tell central bank we wouldn't open up an account, with this exempted, with just bringing in a letter saying that we want to open up an account. So yeah, internal policy can be more stringent than the regulator, but it can be less stringent. So even where the regulator says you only need one piece of ID, Royal Bank said, no, we're too conservative for that. We want two pieces of ID because we're gonna put in some safeguards for human error. Because if we tell them one, that one piece they may not copy. That's another problem industry-wide. Copies are not legible. We keeping it, some firms are keeping information electronically, but when you scan something black and white, when you print it again, it's a bit distorted. So, you have to scan in color. So when you print in color, the picture isn't distorted or the writing isn't distorted. So there's a lot of stuff across the board. So Royal Bank says no, because I was Royal Bank Trust and we had an account with Royal Bank Retail. And when my passport expired, they blocked the account. I said, you can't block this account. They said, but Miss Bullet, your passport. I said, come in. And so they were very, strict in regards to KYC, even though the law provides that, some of these places are exempted and you should trust the regulator has this information and you could, go there and get the information, but they say, no, you don't do it. And so simplified is just like a reduced, making it easier to do business, exempting some persons. Normally you would do simplified for low and medium risk. And then if it's high risk, you would do enhanced due diligence. And of course, enhanced due diligence is just an extra step. And a lot of times a very popular question is, what's the difference between the two? And so what controls do you have in place? And of course, we know the high risk business is the correspondent banking, the PEPs, the people not physically present, not that they will be overall high if you're not physically present, but that category on your risk rating should be, if you say, no, I did not see this client, but they sent them from Switzerland the information, then that category should be higher. And normally on a risk rating form, there are about 10 to 14 categories. So I think at least 5 of the categories would have to be high. You'd have to get an overall high rating, okay? But correspondence relationship overall, that could make you high risk. PEP overall, that could make you high risk. Bearer shares overall, that could make you high risk, okay? And so for simplified, we would ask for proof of source of income, bring a job letter. Enhanced due diligence, we ask the source of wealth. And then again, we are simplified, we would let the compliance officer approve low and medium. High risk, we would get the compliance committee to approve. PEPs, we will let the board approve, which means they are different controls that we have in place. Okay, so you want to be able to explain what you would do. Whereas simplified, we would just use world check and check their names. High risk, we go and ask for a proximal report, $1,500, go into the person's country and find out exactly who they are and what type of businesses they do.
Ms.
Okay?
Bullard, sorry, you said a proximal report?
Yeah, that's just a name of a investigative company. There are many out there. You go online and you pick an institution that will, or an organization that will go out and do various background checks on your behalf.
And then you said simplified will ask for source of income, whereas enhanced due diligence will ask for source of, you said another word,
Well,
wealth. That's what you said.
yeah, so which means source of wealth means you sold a piece of property, I need a copy of the conveyance. You got an inheritance from your parents, I need a copy of the will. You have a business, I need 3 years financial statements.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
yeah. Okay, and then again, politically exposed, and this was a big question in ICA a few years ago, and they normally rotate the questions. But the whole thing behind being politically exposed is that different jurisdictions have different definitions of what a PEP is. So in the Bahamas, a PEP means a prominent figure, a head of state, a legislator, a senior position at an international organization. So what do you call those people? The consulate generals and what have you. A family member and a close associate. Okay, and so what the paper asks is, give us a definition of a PEP. And people was like, okay, so they of course went to this definition, but the whole premise behind that is that the definition is different. Whereas Mexico and Russia say all civil servants are, we want you to classify them as PEPs. So if you walk into the bank in Mexico and you're a civil servant, you're considered a PEP. Okay, and you could be cleaning the floor. But of course, in the UK and in the Bahamas, we say, only the senior positions are required. So that was the difference, and that was the premise of where you would get your 3,000 words, because people like, pull it out, I write 3,000 words on it. But it just depends on what country you come from. So wherever you, if you open an account in the Bahamas for a Mexican, you want to document that in Mexico, he is a civil servant, and in his country is required, he is considered a PEP. And so you just want to make a note, because you don't want your overall business to be considered high risk, but you want to make a note that, hey, if this was Mexico or Russia, he would be considered a PEP. Okay, and so if their country calls for the information, you want to ensure that you just have that note there. Okay, but of course we know the commissioner of police, the head of the defense force, and they are very close friends. And I've seen that nobody wants to be subjected to enhanced due diligence. Nobody wants to be considered high risk. So the salespeople, of course, try and say, listen, don't go over a particular threshold. Don't put these type of purposes or whatever. So what I've seen is persons say, oh, I'm the head of a drug enforcement unit reporting to the prime minister. How should he be categorized? There's just an association, let's say like BASH. Should he be considered a PEP? He reporting to the prime minister. I don't know when an association would report to the prime minister. How that sound to you?
Yeah, you still consider.
I was still consider him as a PEP.
Okay, so you want to ensure that you look out for these type of things, because in the past, in the law of the Bahamas, it said a PEP was only a PEP for 1 year after they left office. But because, like I said, all around the world, presidents are being impeached. South Korea was impeached. Guatemala was impeached. Brazil was impeached. There's a lot of corruption and bribery all around the world. And so, they switched it to say once a PEP, always a PEP. Okay, and so what I found is when I went to an institution that they said, oh, we open these accounts when it said a PEP was only a PEP for 1 year, but now the law has changed. So now you need the in-year review process, go and update these people and make sure that it's categorized properly, and then you want to look out for these type of things. Head of the Drug Enforcement Unit Association reporting to the Prime Minister. Okay, does a matter of fact that you report to the Prime Minister of this country? Yeah, use a PEP.
Really?
Okay. Yeah. You are politically exposed. You are politically influenced.
Ms. Bullard, this is similar to the PS as well, right? The permanent secretary.
Yeah, right. Up straight down to permanent secretary, we list as a PEP. And all their family members.
Yes, when we actually, where I work, I open accounts, And when we get them, as soon as we reach that employment part, we realize, oh my goodness, we have to go to compliance now. So it's not even a simple process in the account opening process.
Right,
anymore.
right. And so of course, you know, people try and find, oh, we need a workaround for this. Okay. And then with companies, you want to be careful with companies, because if your business has does business like with high risk countries like Venezuela. In Venezuela, there's no owning a business. Every business is a joint venture with the government. And so that means the government owns 60% and the individual owns 40%. So that's a pact. If whoever has the major sharehold in a business, that's who you risk rate, right? And so even if your company says, oh my God, we have 10 Venezuelan companies, we don't want to categorize them all as a PEP, you better have a special notation somewhere. Because any joint venture where the state owns the majority of the shares should be PEP as well. Okay? But I guess because Venezuela is heavily sanctioned, you would at least at minimum have them as high risk. Okay, but if you have them categorized as low and medium, when the regulators come in, they can look at you, you know, based on what category, what criteria did you use to properly assess these people or this institution. Okay, so you just want to be aware of that.
Okay.
Okay, so any comments or concerns or questions?
Ms. Bullard, I have a question.
Go ahead.
While you were talking, simplified due diligence goes from page 45 to 47. And then on page 47, because it talks a lot about this exemption, institutions may waive customer identification procedures.
I can't hear you.
Dollar electronic page 47.
Sorry, start over. I didn't hear you at all.
Sorry. Institutions may waive customer identification procedures when the Bahamian dollar electronic payment instrument has an initial maximum stored limit of $500. Can you explain? And is it reloadable up to a maximum of $300 per month?
That's them Bank of the Bahamas, what you call it, cards? Oh,
I mean, the prepaid debit.
yeah, the prepaid debit cards. Yeah, it's those. Yeah, so you don't necessarily have to get the KYC on those persons for those reloadable cards if their limits stay within 500 and 300 per month.
Okay.
Yeah, but of course, again, that's what the law says. If it was a Royal Bank of Canada, they say, oh no, you're getting it for everybody. So it depends on your organization. But again, you have to have it documented that this is your policy. A lot of us say this is what we're going to do, but it's not in policy, and that's where we have a problem. Because we have these things in our head, we don't share it with our staff, and our staff uses their judgment, and all of that causes a problem. So you want to ensure that everybody knows what your policy states. Okay?
Ms. Bullet, I have a question.
Go
On
ahead.
page 37 in the book, when you guys refer to a natural person, that just means that an individual as opposed to a company, right?
Sorry, I'm just going to 37 now. An actual person, yeah. Even for a company, remember I said we had the instance for very many years with the company accounts where the shareholders registry that would show you who are the shareholders, who are the owners of this company. It used to say Bullet & Co. or somebody in Co. And so we did not know who Bullet & Co. was. And so what the law has been updated to say there's no more & Co. Every account must have an actual person. That means an individual must be at the end. So in your shareholders registry, you have Bullet & Co. as the owners. Okay, then there must be a nominee agreement. Who is holding the share on behalf of Bullet & Co.? Who are the beneficial owners? Miss Bullet, Ben Laden, Stephanie, Cassandra. All our names must be listed. And how many shares do we have? Cassandra has 8. Stephanie has 25. Miss Bullet has 50. Ben Laden. So all of us who have more than 10 have to be identified.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions? Okay, so next week, I know I had asked for Thursday, but my date has changed for this funeral, which I have to travel to. And so what I am proposing, if persons are available, we will have Saturday's class next week, Saturday, but then I'm gonna be traveling. I have class Tuesday and Wednesday, then I travel on Thursday. So I'm proposing that the review class is held on Monday from 6 to 9 p.m. if persons are available. Is that a conflict for anybody?
Okay, Monday, what day does that, please?
Let me just look. I think it's the 8th.
The 8th.
Yeah. Let me look at this calendar. Monday. Yeah, Monday is the 8th. So we will have our regular Saturday class where we will talk about the last 2 chapters with the court orders and then the roles of the various departments. And then on Monday, 6 to 9 p.m., we will have the review class. And what I will do, I will send out right after this class, I will send out the review sheet. And what I would ask you to do is for each topic, just select 10, put down 10 points that you, if you were going to answer an essay question, what are the 10 points that you would discuss in this essay? And so each person in the review class will have an opportunity to answer one of the questions. Okay, so I'll send it out right after this. You'll take a look at it and you can use the remaining half an hour to jot down your 10 points. And then on Monday, tell us what your 10 points is and how you would answer each of these questions. Now, bear in mind, it's 15 multiple choice and 7 essays. So what you want to do is select, there's 8 chapters in the book. Of course, a question is going to come from each chapter. There's going to be 10 choices. So some questions may come, 2 questions may come from a chapter. But the key to this, passing this exam and being successful is organization. So if you already know, you want to pick out, these are the 7 topics that I'm going to talk about and organize yourself. And when you get into the exam, like I say, you go in with your 35% and then you will be comfortable knowing that, of course, I'm talking with PEPs. So that means I'll do enhanced due diligence, or I could do risk, or I do in court orders, or what have you.
Would the review session be on YouTube as well?
Yeah, it's going to be recorded, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, is there anybody, is that Monday, the 6 to 9, is that a conflict for anybody?
No.
No? Okay.
Said
Okay.
Monday the 8th, right?
Yeah, Monday the 8th.
Yeah, that's fine.
6 to 9, yeah. Okay, so if there are no further questions or concerns, you have about 30 minutes left. I'm going to send the review sheet and I want you to start to document, your 10 points that you would want to discuss. Okay, and so that next week you will tell me which question you are going to answer in the review session on Monday.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, good. Clear as mud. And for those who don't have, like I said, for those who don't have your homework in, I only have 2 people for their 5%. That means the other, how much of y'all, 13 of y'all, you just let it go down the drain. Well, it's up to you. But it's available to you for the next.
You just send the invite.
Okay, Miss Bullet, I have an invite for Thursday.
Yeah, so do I. So I'm hoping that's another 5%.
Right, so I sent, no, only 5%, Miss Wood. I sent it to no, but I sent that invite. I just got that one. I sent the invite to the persons who asked for an invite, but you were supposed to go out online. If you go right onto Facebook and you put in Rotary, the clubs are gonna come back up. If you go put in Toastmasters, and remember I told you there's a one in February for the club 1600. You go and do your research and find a club and next week we have two more classes where you can share. You have 2 more opportunities to get those points.
Yeah, so that's why I said I have one on Thursday.
So,
Okay, good.
is this exam still going to be on the 20th?
Yes, it is.
Is there a possibility to take it sooner once we do the review and like, well, I don't know, maybe you might have some concerns about that.
Sorry, what is the concern?
No, I was asking if it was possible to take it sooner because the last two chapters are kind of
Kind of
small.
what?
Small.
Right. So, I mean, you could speak to Ms. Dean about that. Because everybody's gonna go in and what you would have to do is call Miss Dean and schedule an appointment. So since I guess the review and if you don't need the extra time to study, that's the whole purpose is, the lapse is to give you at least a week to study. So I don't know if you would have gone to your institutions now and requested study time off if they allow it. But you can call Miss Dean and schedule it. They're doing social distancing. So, and I think they have 8 classrooms and they have 4 persons in each class. So you can call her and you can make an appointment and see if she will allow an earlier date. That'll be fine.
Okay.
But
So-
after the 13th though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, after the review, definitely
Yeah.
after the review.
Well, the review is on the 8th. So
Yeah.
you
okay.
wanna, they will start that could possibly start like the 16th or so, but you'd have to ask her.
I
if
will.
She's able to accommodate you.
Okay, thank you.
Or otherwise just use the time to study. So like I say, you are comfortably, in the exam.
Okay, no
Okay.
problem.
Somebody else wanted to say, I heard a gentleman speak.
No,
There
I
was
was
another
just gonna mention that the Rotary East Nassau has their meeting ID published on their Facebook site. So if anyone wants to go to East Nassau Rotary, they have their meetings every Friday at 12, I think.
Okay.
And it's posted on their web. It's posted on the website and their Facebook page. So you don't need an invite.
Right. Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you so much for that, Leslie.
I don't know, Ms. Bullitt, are we allowed to offer our classmates any assistance if they need it with their completion of their assignment?
Yeah, sure. Just don't do it for them. But
No, I know. For them.
no, let me tell you what I've seen. I've seen some excellent homework, and then somebody else shows up in the exam, and I'm taken aback, and then it's gonna be marked by me and cross-marked. So Ms. Bullitt can't, I say, okay, I understand this with Lam was trying to say, because I remember from class, that there will be no interpreter. So please
Okay,
make sure that the same person that does your homework shows up to the exam. Okay, because we've had some differences in the past. Okay.
Oh,
So
Ms.
yeah,
Bullitt.
help, of course, network, get to know everybody. You should walk away knowing everybody in this class. And my other classes, they have WhatsApp groups. They keep abreast of current events and they share and they sent me a picture the other day. They all went to Toastmasters together. They sent me a nice photo. It was really good. So
That's nice.
yeah. So network and get to know, see who needs help and
What's up?
help each other.
Well, I'll send an email, put my number in the email. I have a space if persons want to get together and after the review or a day or two after the review and just, test each other. Or we can do it online. It doesn't matter.
Right. And this, like I say, and I have the persons keeping the group all the way through the ICA, and that's definitely where you need support. Okay. So this is a good start. If you're going down all the way.
Does this and the intermediate is a portion of the ICA or the ICA is 18 months on its own?
It's 18 months on its own. Again, this is just the introductory class to find out if I can do this. And then persons who are in the compliance department, they at least require you, if you want to be an assistant, to have up to intermediate level. And then if you're going to go on to a compliance officer, then you go to, ICA.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so good. So I'll send you all the review sheet so you can start to look at it. And again, on each topic, it's just going to be 10 topics. You just put 10 points and then start to do some research like, I'm going to quote this law or I'm going to use this example. And normally, like I say, I push, we're going to sit down and talk, but I need you to comprehend, and then I want you to be able to go back to your institutions and apply. And so by using like articles from the newspaper or real life examples, you get more points. Okay, because it shows that you know how to connect the dots.
Okay.
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 Okay, awesome. So y'all have a fabulous week.
No, Miss Bullard, I have a question, please.
Go ahead.
On the homework assignment, when I was reading, it said footnotes do we have to do the footnotes for the reference, not the APA way?
So you're saying this that's in the handbook?
Yeah, it's in the ICA. Do we have to put the footnotes for the references?
Yeah, because again, we want you to practice all the way. We just got results back, and everybody, almost 90% of the class, got at least 10% off for improper referencing. So I try to, get you to practice from intro, especially if you're going to go the entire way. That's why I sent the book. So you learn, you do it their way, because they are they are meticulous.
Okay.
Yeah. So to
In the
just do it their
exam.
way. Do it their way.
In
Thank
the
you.
exam, do we still put footnotes?
Sorry?
In the exam, will we put footnotes for the essay?
No. Again, all of this is just for practice.
Okay.
In the exam, you have 10 points, you scale it down. See, in ICA, you write 25 to 3,000 words. That's why I said for your homework, write 1,000 to 12, just so it'll give you some practice. And put in the footnotes, and I don't take off points if the footnotes are not there. I'm just trying to get you used to doing it the proper way. You see what I mean? But when you get to ICA, you do what they say. The Brits are very meticulous and they are very stringent. And like I said, person got 10 and 15 points off for improper referencing.
So we won't need a reference in the exam, in the final exam on the 20th?
No, you just need examples
Okay.
or various stories according to the, the Tribune, according to the Nassau Guardian or what have you. You don't need to put your footnotes to the bottom. Or you say the FATF recommendation one state, and you don't want to copy the entire body of, or try to put that in your head. You just want to say an overview. Recommendation one says countries assess their risk, put controls in place, and then you go on. People like to copy like a whole body of legislation and stuff like that, but you don't get any points for that.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Any more questions?
No.
No? Okay, good. So back to having a fabulous week. Unwind, relax, get some rest, and schedule your days off if your company allows it. And like I said, this is achievable, and I'm very confident from the feedback I'm getting from the class. Very articulate and an intellectual class, and so I have no worries.
One day, Miss Bullard, what time is the exam again? 9:30
Yeah,
or
it's
9?
9:30, but again, when you call to make the appointment with Miss Dean, she may ask some of you to come in at 12.
Oh,
Okay, so call and get your appointments in so you would know whether you're gonna go at 9:30 or 12.
Okay.
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 I don't even know you have to call. Okay.
Okay, so we good?
Pretty good, bro. I feel
Sorry,
like
somebody said something?
I'm gonna go do that.
Meryl? I think that's your mic, Meryl.
Sorry.
Yeah, okay, so you good?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. All right, so we'll do this again next week. I'll see you on next Saturday, and I'll send you the sheet right now so you can start to take a look at it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, good. Have a great day.
You too.
Thank you. Also, well.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Miss Bullard. She already gone in. Okay, cool. I'll email her.
Is Erica still there?
Erica Ferguson, I'm still here.
I remember Wood.
Oh, the other one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, no, she's gone then.
Okay.
And Jason,
Hi.
hi, how are you?
What's up, Renita?
Not a thing. You trying to, anybody interested in a WhatsApp group?
Sure.
I'm trying to get Erica to do it right now.
So we're in breakout room number 2. Yeah.
Jason, you still have my number?
I check it right now. And one second.
Right, because each person then, based on what your plans are on your different levels, so even
No, I don't have it.
Lent is coming up. I'm dealing with the level 1 and 2, small
It-
kids.
Okay, they're sending it to you.
Okay.
Probably
All right.
10 and 12, they'll be in another room, depending on.
Hey.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What are these odd things to this phone?
Mm. Mm. Mm.
I just sent you a message. I don't know if it come true yet.
Right. Yeah. Mm. To go right. Whichever room you want to join. Now we wanted to include like because 2 young adults were saying they were gonna come, Victoria and Danielle, but I don't know what happened. So it would be like if there were a teacher, we could probably still have. That's why I was